we're going to ask is James Ham to
Oh,
pull up. James Ham in the building. What's up, everybody?
the
Hey,
1320
there he
mic too.
is. Come on, James Ham.
Hello, friends.
James, what's up, dude?
It's hot, so I decided to come up in the air conditioning and hang out for a little while.
Smart
Been
move. I
down.
was wondering if you're going to flex on us and be on the beach.
No, I mean I don't think you guys can see, but the beach is right behind me. Maybe not. Maybe not.
You were sending me your draft takes, and I was like, I hope you're doing this on the beach, and you were literally doing it on the beach.
Yeah, I was by the pool, watching stuff on my phone. Yes.
How much tape have you been grinding since you got to Cabo this weekend?
A lot of tape. Everyone likes to relax in their own way. I've been trying to trudge through the first Harry Potter book. I told Kyle I was going to try to read it while I was down here. I'm like 47% in, so I'm doing okay. But then it's like I got to hide from the sun. And so I sit under an umbrella. I go out in the water for a little while. I come back and sit under the umbrella some more, bring the laptop out and just start grinding some tape. So yeah, I definitely kind of deep dive on McCain and maybe Ron Holland, a couple others. Yeah.
You said Ron Holland reminded you a little bit of Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah. So I'm always I've talked about this. I like to look at the way people move, right? When I'm watching film, it's a lot of how I not judge what a player is going to be, but kind of get a player comp.
Yeah.
I see a little bit of Andrew Wiggins and a little bit of Jeff Green in Ron Holland's. They're narrow with their stance, which and they're inline players. They're not guys that move side to side a whole bunch. I really like him, and I think he's going to be a super fun player. He's just going to take a little while because he's so young. But the athleticism is there. I think when you get somebody like this and you're into your program, you're probably going to try to widen his stance, especially when he's playing defense. But even like on his 3-point shots, his feet are super close together. And so that just means that it's a lot of upper body. It's a lot of arm motion as opposed to using his legs to sort of shoot. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what they kind of do with him when he gets to the next level. He is a guy who went and played as a barely 18-year-old against grown men in the G League for the G League Ignite. And so he's intriguing to me. I think McCain is intriguing to me as well. I got a little bit of Derek White in him. He's got that kind of, I even he looks like he could be another Jones brother. Just kind of a below the rim, but really smart, edgy point guard. His assist numbers weren't spectacular, but he certainly wasn't asked to do that and has a lot of those skills as well.
You have a favorite prospect for the Kings? Do you think that you'd like them to take at 13 if they do make that pick?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this draft in particular is so wide open. I don't mind staying at 13, see who falls. We know the Kings brought in Ron Holland for a look. We know they brought in McCain for a look. They brought in a couple others. Was it Tristan Da Silva? Some of these guys are at least intriguing. And like what we've talked about before, this draft is so wide open that players that are mocked at number 5 could be there at 13. Players that are mocked at number 25 could be your pick. And I don't think anyone's going to think twice. That's just kind of the nature of this particular draft. And I think the Kings are pretty wide open about who they would look at.
James Ham joining us typically on this show from 10 to noon, but down in Cabo this week, grinding tape.
I got to say, him having a 1320 mic out there in Cabo, he's legit our Cabo correspondent right now.
It's incredible.
I am. James Ham from Cabo.
Flip-flops on the ground in Cabo, James Ham. Jesse and I are both leaning more toward the Kings making a pick tonight than trading it. Are you there yet?
No, I think everything is still wide open. That's kind of how I would look at this draft. I think that if they have to make a pick at 13, they will, but their hope is to improve the roster. And the biggest way to improve the roster is probably using that 13th pick along with some of your veterans to go get the player today. Because after today, it becomes really difficult because you don't have a 25, you don't have a 26. And even your 27 first round pick has an asterisk next to it that you may or may not be able to trade. So It does make it more difficult after today. But like, who knows? Like, this is a pretty wide open draft, and I think that we're seeing a lot of things happening already that kind of just are like major head scratchers. I think it's a little bit like the Brandon Ayuk situation that we talk about so much, that if the 49ers would have just paid Brandon Ayuk $25 million in the beginning of summer, they would have been just fine. And now the price keeps going up. I think by waiting and trying to get a deal closer to actual draft day, and the Kings kind of have to do that. They can't trade their pick in advance. But by waiting, we just saw what happened yesterday. The Mikal Bridges thing, it really might upset the apple cart completely, and just like change the value of everybody in the league. So, to quote Kenny Caraway, yesterday's price is not today's price, and that's very possible.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's tough. 2 first-round picks for Kyle Kuzma. It is.
No,
It's gonna have to be multiple. It is. But that's just that feels like the new going rate for a player who's going to start and be a key part of your team. Like if you're Washington, and we had Sean Cunningham, your podcast partner at the Kings Beat podcast. We had him on earlier, and he made the point. That it's circumstantial what a team's going to want in a trade. But I think if you're Washington and the Kings come to you with number 13 and Kevin Huerter, and Chris Duarte,
yeah,
I don't know if and then you're looking at the Mikal Bridges deal and you're like, hey, they got all that for Mikal Bridges.
Well, it's also too like how actively are they trying to even trade Kuzma too?
Right. Which is why it's kind of circumstantial for sure. But to me, it's just I don't know that I'm less confident now that 13 and some players is going to get anything substantial done.
I mean, I think it is circumstantial. Every team has a different need, and if you're the Washington Wizards, you kind of know you're in trouble. Like, you didn't build a team that is there for long-term success, and I don't think that they can get better than the 13th pick in this year's draft. So again, if they want to wait and then maybe get a future pick, you just don't know how those things look down the road. I mean, it's one thing to get a future, Utah Jazz pick, right? But then what if Utah gets good all of a sudden and that pick's not a great pick anymore? So I think the number 13 has a lot of value because I don't think a lot of teams above them are looking to trade unless they're looking for like crushing home run trades, right? And I don't think the value is there. I don't think the value is there at number 4, number 8, or we've heard Houston dangling number 3. Like those picks at 11, 12 million bucks a pop, like they don't have a lot of value to me if I'm looking to build a team. But the number 13 pick, if you miss on that pick, it's only a $5 million investment in year 1 and $6 million in year 2. It's not this huge, monstrous like contract that you're taking on that could hinder you for a young player that you're going to have to sit there and wait for to develop. So I think that there are going to be players that teams fall in love with. I think there always is. And at number 13, I think there's going to be a ton of value. And I still think this is the move where you can strike and get better quickly. And it's the way that you can also package picks going forward. You can trade the 13th, but also your 2027, 2029, and 2031 if you were on an all-in deal. But if after today, that pick becomes less valuable, automatically the player becomes less valuable than the pick was, because now it's not somebody that someone was going out and getting. And then after today, it really does. You're kind of in a holding pattern because you don't have anything to offer anybody for 2025 or 2026 if you're trading only 27, 29, 30, 31.
James Ham, typically a host on the Insiders, on vacation, but kind enough to join us from his loft suite. Room?
It's a 2-bedroom suite. Our friends, again, I've said this. People always say this about people with boats: don't buy a boat, get a friend with a boat. Don't buy a timeshare, get a friend with a timeshare.
Facts.
That is my method here. And our friends have timeshares. And last year it was a monster 3-bedroom place. Today, I mean, we're literally 3rd story looking over the entire ocean, the beach, and the pool area. It's pretty nice.
and you're grinding Ron Holland G League tape. Unbelievable, this guy. Would you use the 13th pick? It's now being reported that the Nets are interested in trading Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith. Would you use the 13th pick to acquire one or both of those guys?
It's tough. I like Cam Johnson, but I think we all look at Cam Johnson and think that he's much younger than he is for some reason.
Mhm.
And so that's for me. Dorian Finney-Smith, same thing. I think what Dorian Finney-Smith, 31, 32. Cam
Mhm.
Johnson's like 28 now. He
Right.
kind of is what he is, right? And he's not that great. I don't think he's an upgrade. He's more athletic than Harrison Barnes, but I don't think he's an upgrade over Harrison Barnes. And he certainly hasn't strung together like 4 consecutive 82 game seasons like Harrison Barnes. So
Mhm.
it's tough. I would understand that trade. And he's a budget guy. I would do it as long as it's not damaging too much. And I would want more than Cam Johnson for like 13 and Herter. I
Sure.
don't think that would work. I would want, considerably more back from them. Maybe if you could work a deal where you got both of them,
Yeah.
that would make sense. And sort of have like a nice little combo of forwards there that are different than last year's a combination of forwards. But I feel bad for Jordy Fernandez. He took that job and now it's like fire sale.
That was the first thing I thought of last night when I saw
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges trade. I was like, oh no, poor Jordy.
Poor
You think-
Jordy.
You think the Kings feel any sense of urgency? Because like the Rockets yesterday were kind of positioning themselves to make a deal. Like I think it was Woj said for Kevin Durant and all that. And then the Warriors have been linked to Paul George. Like you think the Kings feel any sense of urgency because the teams behind them could possibly be taking steps up?
Yeah, I think they should feel a sense of urgency because they weren't good enough last year and they didn't make the playoffs, is number one. But number two, because there are teams around them. And the problem that you have if you're a team like the Kings is that you build a team of, 24 to 26-year-olds. And then the next year they're 25 to 27-year-olds. And the next year they're 26 to 28-year-olds. And
Right.
so you're always kind of chasing that type of player, that brand of player, and that age of player to fit into your system. And that while you're doing that, a team like the Houston Rockets is out there, tanking, getting spectacular top tier picks in good drafts. They're amassing all this talent, but they're also going around and making trades to acquire picks because it took them a certain way to get bad. And then while they were bad, they had already amassed a bunch of assets and they've used some of those assets to, take top 5 players. But then on top of that, they still have more assets. And, again, it's kind of like how the Knicks just built their squad, which is one of the most impressive builds ever because you took like a diminished value player in Jalen Brunson. You overpaid him by everyone's eyes. And then he ends up living up to that contract. And then you keep bringing in players that don't really move the needle, but once they're in your system, they do. And DiVincenzo and all of it, Josh Hart, all these guys that they brought in. So I think it's really interesting how they've been able to sort of amass talent. But at the same time, they had traded a bunch of guys away to get a bunch of first round picks. They had taken a couple of bad contracts on to get first round picks. And next thing you know, they've got the ability to go hand somebody 4 first round picks for Mikal Bridges. And the Kings just don't have that opportunity.
Kenny Caraway in the building for the handoff. Kenny, James is joining us from your timeshare.
Not my timeshare at all. This is James. James, I always love to hear from James Ham. What are you doing?
What
are we doing here?
Can I explain my angle on this first?
Okay.
James is always down to help. However, he's
Yes.
like, whatever. Yes. I'm going to the moon. I got a 5G thing. I got you. I'll be on.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to reach out and be like, hey, can you hop on? Because I knew he'd say yes.
Yeah.
But I told him, if you want to jump on, open invite. It's your show.
Right.
Pop on whenever.
Look at the guy.
We're getting a tour right now. We're getting a tour.
This guy's in paradise right now.
1320 cribs right now.
I might take you outside.
He texted me some thoughts on some draft prospects.
Yeah.
And I jokingly, I was like, I hope you're sending me these from a beach. And literally was doing
Oh,
that.
man. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot right there.
Look at
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Come on, man.
Here I am.
Hey, we cooking right now. We
Here
are
I am.
cooking.
Incredible. If you would like to see James' setup, head over to youtube.com/ESPN1320. And you can drop a comment. Let him know what you think.
So I want to ask both of you guys, everybody here,
Yeah.
and James too. because he sent you some thoughts about some draft prospects or whatever. James, you think they're drafted for themselves today?
I think it's going to come down to the wire, but to be honest with you, I don't think they are. I think that the pressure for them to improve now is there. And I honestly believe that this is the moment that they can take advantage of that. And so I would expect them to actually try to make some sort of move and figure something out.
I think so too. The Knicks have kind of made me feel like this is the time. We're not. It's not time for, what he does, flexibility moving forward and all this. It's not, like, this is it. It's not, maybe it's not a championship time, and I'm not saying that, but this is the time to cash in on your draft pick and any little contracts and assets that you have.
The Knicks overpaid a little bit, you could say, for Mikal Bridges. I think the Kings would be willing to do something like that. I feel like that's not been their bag, really.
I think they should be willing to do something like that.
It's got to be the right player. I don't think it's like Kyle Kuzma, whose value went up today. I think it's probably Brandon Ingram, whose value went up. And that's the guy that I would, if you really want to swing for the fences, figure out a way. It's probably have to be a 3-team deal, but figure out a way to get Ingram into your program. And then I think that's a home run move. And then you'd have to lock him up and pay the big money. The big thing about Ingram is he's only on a 1-year deal, where Bridges is on like one of those ridiculous $20 million deal, a year deal. So he definitely would be someone that I think that you would have to probably invest at least 2 first-round picks this year and at least 1 more, and maybe something more than that in addition to players. And then again, you got to find the right 2 teams to work with, because I don't think there's a way to just do a straight swap with the Pelicans.
Kenny, I want to ask you this question, because Jesse and I have talked about this a couple times, talking about the watch party tonight.
Yes.
Out of Tom's watch bar.
Big ups.
What's the move that could happen where the vibes would be the worst?
The worst, Zach LaVine.
Okay.
Not for me, but I'm
right. You'd be all in.
I'm reading the room, and there'll be a lot of moaning and groaning and, oh, man, bro, I don't like that. It'd be Zach.
What's the move that would make the vibes the highest?
I was about to say Brandon Ingram, but Kyle Kuzma might too. But I'll go with my first guess, Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram would be the biggest swing, for sure.
Yeah, I would say it would probably be the Ingram move would be like, cheers. I think the Kuzma would be like, okay, solid clap. I think the LaVine deal would be like, oh, like tough. Like, but you never know.
Someone in the chat, Jabbar, I don't know about anyone else, but me, they draft Zach Edey. I'm leaving.
Are we booing? Are we booing at times?
I'm gone.
Hey, I'm so in on Zach Edey.
I'm gone. They draft him at 13.
You wouldn't be psyched to go down to the
me game? At the parking garage.
You're courtside, Kenny.
Here.
You're courtside, Kenny. You get to see this 7'18" guy walk onto the court.
I thought about that. I try not to say something like that, because who knows? But I'm just not.
I'm cutting this, and
Zach
if they
Edey.
draft him, I'm tweeting it at him every single day until he responds.
I'm not interested. At 13, like if you had the 23rd pick, or if you had him in the second round or something like that, yeah, take a chance. But at 13, I'm not interested in Zach Edey.
Yeah. If you trade it back, maybe. But yeah, that's a tough one.
I think Zach Edey for me is worst case scenario, no matter what in the first round.
Even if they trade back?
Yes, like he's just a backup big who's gonna play 10 minutes. Like that was our move.
Yeah, but
that was our move.
But think of the social media content.
So tall.
That's a good point, though. He's never gonna start.
Yeah.
Think of the things that you'll see walking into Golden One, where it's like the life size cutout of Zach Edey, and you can take a photo.
Take a picture next
to
Zach
how big
Edey.
the hand is, and here's the shoe size, and all the stuff. Anyway.
Shoe size. Put your foot where Zach Edey's footprint is.
Yeah. Anyway, James, appreciate you so much for hopping out from Cabo, man. Go enjoy the rest of your vacation, and we'll see you on Monday.
See you guys.
See you, James.
Hammer.